The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Welcome everyone to the Smackdown live review for Wrestling to the Max this week, and we are going to be talking about the March 21st, 2017 edition, if I can be correct on that. And we are excited about it. Just to let you guys know, though, this isn't the only review we do. Of course, we do Monday Night Raw, also 205 Live, and NXT. So if you haven't heard any of those shows, please go check them out. And of course, the way to do that is to go to W2Mnet.com or go subscribe at Wrestling to the Max on whatever device you use. Maybe you use iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever you go. Hey, just go subscribe for us and do that. I'm your host, Gary Vaughn. Of course, with me, co-host, Mr. Paul Leazar. What's going on, Paul?
Not a whole bunch, man. Just you and me doing these guys today instead of me and Sean.
I know, so a little change up here, but that's what's kind of interesting and fun about this. You just never know who you're going to get, everyone. But this is going to be a lot of fun because we did the Monday Night Raw review, and let's be honest, we were not thrilled with Monday Night Raw. But I think SmackDown Live has a lot more brighter days for us because this one definitely was a shiny day. So let's go and jump into it, Paul. Let's talk about this episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, we're going to leap right on into this one. We're going to talk about the most interesting thing first because, for a match that I had zero interest in seeing when they announced it, they're doing their damnedest to really try to sell you on it. And that's AJ Styles and Shane McMahon. They open the show. We get highlights of AJ attacking Shane after he gets out of the limo last week and how Shane immediately challenged him to a match at WrestleMania, seeing as that is all AJ Styles was after. And then we run into Styles and Daniel Bryan backstage, and Bryan said if it was up to him, AJ would still have been fired, but Shane wants to handle this his way like a man and has instead halted the firing. AJ still has a job, and Styles says that the attack felt so good last week that he's going to go out there and tell the world how he #beat up Shane McMahon. And then we get the opening promo from him where he talks about, you know, how great the attack obviously felt like he said he was going to, and why a former world champion and, let's face it, the guy who has kept SmackDown so incredibly interesting since the draft would want to face Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. And ultimately what he wants to prove is that if he wasn't here, SmackDown would be nothing. And Shane knows that. That's why Shane didn't fire him, and that's why he's going to get everything the way he wanted. He's going to get that match with Shane, and calls himself untouchable, and he's going to meet Shane in the parking lot and beat him up once again, except this time it's going to be phenomenally worse. You see what he did there? Cause
yeah.
He's phenomenal. Ha.
Pun intended.
Yeah. So AJ's waiting in the back a lot the rest of the evening until we get to the end. Shane sort of ends up playing him because whenever the limo pulls up and AJ thinks it's Shane, it turns out to be Heath Slater and Rhino. Shane has snuck cleverly into the arena, comes out to the ring, talks about how AJ could have handled this in so many different ways that would have been better for both Shane and AJ. However, AJ has done what he has done. Shane now is going to handle this the way he wants to handle it. Instead of man-to-man talking it out, it's going to come to the old fisticuffs and at the biggest stage of them all. Out comes Styles, who says, you know what, I've had a change of heart. I'm going to apologize. Going to do things the way you were just saying we should. And as he climbs into the ring to face Shane McMahon so he can apologize face to face, Shane jumps him, hits some absolutely ridiculously uninspired punches, and that leads to the outside, where the brawl, I think, really starts to take place. AJ suplexes Shane into the barricade. We have Shane sort of fight back some and lay AJ out on the announce table, and then he goes top rope to outside through the announce table with his patented elbow drop to send the show home. I enjoyed most of what we got the whole night between these two. I think AJ is absolutely inspired in his promo ability right now. Shane, despite the attack not being altogether believable at first, I think it pulled together at the end.
Yeah, I looked at this as sweet and sour.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit here that I was kind of like, man, I don't want to be negative Nancy, but I've got, a problem with this kind of. And then there was other parts of this where I'm like, oh, man, I like that. Wow, I feel like they're accomplishing something here. Mm-hmm. So I just want to quickly kind of break down some of these thought processes that I have, and I'm really curious about how you feel about each of these things. The first one that I'll talk about is AJ and how he came out and basically explained everything we needed to know. Everything you just said, Paul, about him proving that he's the MVP of SmackDown, and that's me saying that, but that's what he's going at here. That's what he wants you to know and how important he is. Now, at the same point, he comes back and gets back involved and comes down and apologizes like a whipped puppy dog to Shane, which is kind of interesting to me because he was basically going to attack Shane again, yes, behind, and do the dastardly deed of, I'm going to jump you for a second time. But when it comes down to it, he's kind of playing now a different heel than I expected. He's kind of playing that whole sheepish heel, coming out, well, I was talking big and bad, but I'm kind of a little bit scared of you. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense for me personally. I don't know. Maybe you can disagree with it. I don't know. But I look at it like Shane McMahon, yes, he's been a big part of some interesting WrestleMania matches, of course, last year with Undertaker. But Shane McMahon is also not known as being, how should I say this, a mainstay superstar who's going to put you down. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this a little too much. But why is he coming out and being sheepish? He should be just coming out and getting Shane McMahon's face and then Shane attacking him. I love the Shane attacking him. Makes all the sense in the world. Mm-hmm. It's just, I didn't like that part of him coming out, I apologize, I'm sorry.
I have to believe that it was going to be bait so he could lure Shane in and attack him once he got in the ring. And Shane just sort of beat him to the punch, I think is where they were going with this. Okay. Simply because you hear him deliver, hey, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do things exactly the way you want to, I'm going to apologize, all these other things, even though at the top of the hour I said that I absolutely enjoyed beating the living daylights out of you. I think Shane knew he was lying. And that's just my, there's no evidence to support that other than me being me, but...
No, and you may have a good point there because I could see Shane. I didn't watch Talking Smack. You'll have to forgive me if they had anything on Talking Smack that was relevant to this SmackDown. But besides that, they may come and say this next week. Mm-hmm. They may say just that. Shane's like, I know you. I'm never going to trust you again. And if you thought you were going to attack me first last week, I got the better hand here because I knew I'm a step ahead of you. Right. AJ. So I think that's a good plan. I just hope that's the way they're going. I hope it's not AJ's nervous about facing Shane because I think that makes AJ look bad, to be honest with you. And I want AJ to come into this match feeling like he is the MVP of SmackDown and that Shane is just a pebble in his way. And I think from there, you get a better underdog story for Shane. Because Shane's always played that great underdog. His entire career in the ring or maybe even outside the ring sometimes has been that underdog, the guy that you want to root for. And it really hasn't been that strong right now. It's not been something we've really got out of this. Undertaker last year was easy. You're like, it's Undertaker.
Right.
Of course he's the underdog, but AJ Styles, this just has not felt that way. So I hope that's where they're going. I really, really do, and I think it's a good deal. I actually do really like this feud to an extent because I was hating on it a lot before we even got to this point. You know me, Paul. I've been saying, why are they doing this? Come on, AJ Styles, he's better than this. But maybe there's something that I'd have not comprehended and seen in the future that I'm going to love. And I think it's kind of turning me around to that where I'm, okay, this is not so bad. I'm okay with this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in just 2 weeks, they've done a pretty solid job of at least in on my side of the fence here, me looking at this match and saying, boy, what a waste of AJ Styles at WrestleMania, into, this has actually turned into a pretty decent feud. It's got short build to it. They've really focused the last 2 Smackdowns towards this feud, sort of to the detriment of some other areas, which we're going to talk about on this episode too. But I really, really like AJ's side of this, and it'll be even better if we come back next week and seeing as Shane had laid out all the reasons of why this could have been avoided. I would really love it if this ties back into AJ feeling disrespected because he is the franchise player of SmackDown. He's still owed that one-on-one WWE World Heavyweight title rematch that he never got. And really turn it on his head so that way you can empathize with him and then watch him go do something dastardly to end the show. I think that would be a great way to send this home.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think your vision right here is something that I think would totally work, and I think would really make this, feel so much better at the end of the day, seeing that growth and getting to that point, and that's what we want. Out of all this, we want at the end of the day for AJ to come out smelling like roses because we all respect him and we think a lot of the guy. So we want to see him do something that's very, very special, and I think he will. And I think your point here could happen. And I don't want to beat this to death. I think for the most part, this was all good. I think this was a really good part of the show with AJ and Shane. I love the comedy factor of, AJ waiting for Shane, and then, he's about to attack, and then it's Heath Slater and Rhino. I love that.
Yeah.
I just wish that Rhino would have been eating some crackers and cheese or something. But,
no segment can be perfect, it seems.
Yeah, so that was good, and overall was good. And the only other thing that I may have a little bit of a hesitation, or maybe even a little bit of an issue with, is it took forever to get AJ down to the ring when Shane was actually in the ring. I think to be honest with you, I thought to myself, while the JBL is talking to fill the time while Shane stands there and you watch AJ walk, it seemed like 15 minutes to the ring. I thought to myself, I'm just missing the drums, the Goldberg music, that's what I felt like. I was like, oh, this is a Goldberg entrance, So I thought that was a little lengthy.
I'm glad you brought that up because I thought they were wasting all that time to sort of double cross you and be like, well, AJ's not walking out to the ring. He's walking out of the arena. He's not even going to, grace Shane with his presence face to face. If he can't beat him up, he doesn't want to talk to him. And I think maybe that would have been a better way to go too. But that's honestly what I thought they were doing. I thought wasting all this time and they're building this up, and then he gets to the curtain and everything like that, and then he starts hesitating, and then you have to wonder what's happening here.
Yeah, so I think they may have been wanting to sell that. They may have actually planned it, or maybe they didn't, and we're just thinking that ourselves. But I think you're completely right. I kept waiting for him to walk out that back door. I was just waiting for it, and then when he got to the curtain and he hesitated, I said, they did all that for him to look at the curtain and then turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't work out that way, and I'm really happy in a way it didn't work out that way. But at the same point, I think it could have been a okay thing if he would have walked out the back door. I think that would have been kind of interesting. But overall, I think we can say this is not bad. There's a few nitpicky things that I'm sitting here, doing, some negative reaction to. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. And Let's move on to something else I really enjoyed this evening, and that was the American Alpha defending the Smackdown Tag Team Championships against Dem Usos. Feud that had been percolating in the background of SmackDowns, and I mean very much in the background, maybe a segment here or there, for the last month or two, and even longer than that if you want to go back to the Usos sort of crippling Mr. Gable there for a while. They get about 15 minutes. We get a lot of, I think, really inspired brawling, and especially a lot of American Alpha dominating, I would say, at least 3/5 of this match, a good portion. You get to the really hot end where things are firing, hot and heavy. You got big moves happening on the outside. Jordan spears down, I believe, Jimmy, goes back into the ring. He ends up taking a low blow and then gets double super kicked right out of his boots to lose the titles to the Usos. They are your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I thought this is a really solid match. I don't particularly care for the hot shotting, but I have to feel like it's because they don't think Alpha is either getting over enough or don't simply have the goods to maybe carry this into WrestleMania or something along those lines, because it feels very odd to do this here.
Yeah. They're like 13, 12 days away from WrestleMania. I mean, my God. I mean, this almost seems a little ridiculous to switch the titles right here. I think, in my head, as I saw this take place, I thought to myself, okay, maybe I just need to go down the card and count how many, faces, how many heels have titles, what they're going mathematically with, who do they want to kind of win or lose, and how they feel about the whole card overall. And maybe that's why they had to make a hot shot kind of move to hurry and quickly get the titles over to a heel team. I don't know. That's just a thought that went into my head. Outside of that, though, I don't have a huge problem with it because I think, American Alpha has done fine with the titles. But let's be honest, their run has not been anything great. It has not been anything super spectacular, and it's not their fault. It's really not. It really has to do with the fact that the tag team division on SmackDown has just really not been that energetic. It's not been anything to write home about, and I think that they could really either do some really they're due for a really good feud that matters, that's really strong, or they're due to have additions to this group that could really jumpstart them to another level, because that's why we kind of sadly saw the situation we had with American Alpha as the tag champions. They've just kind of held the titles and had some decent matches, but nothing great. So here we are. We're at WrestleMania time, and I think that now that they are no longer champions, it's the fun part of getting to see them try to regain those titles. And I think that maybe that's the direction we're going with here is everyone wants to see the Usos lose. They're going to root for them really hard. The crowd's going to be hot to see the American Alpha win. Whereas if American Alpha walks in champions, I don't think that you have that same excitement, And it's not a big deal if the Usos lose. You're just like, okay, golf clap, move on. Now, if American Alpha wins, you're stoked. You're like, okay, this is awesome. I'm very, very happy. Finally the titles are back over to the guys I like. So maybe that was the kind of some of the thought process I came up with this. Overall, they gave you a good match, a really good match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's something that they needed to do desperately because we've not seen this in the tag division, at least on SmackDown and some, for the most part, on Raw, too. I'm not going to lie. So I think this is an important match to have to prove that, hey, we can have good tag team matches on our regular episodes. Don't save your breath until you get to a pay-per-view. We can do it here, too. So I'm happy with it. And not that I'm the Uso fan, but I think this makes sense for the fact that WrestleMania is what they're pointing to when it comes to, who they want the crowd to be hot for.
I think that's a fair assessment. There is much more in a feud when a babyface is chasing the heel team and all that stuff, and especially after cheating him from the titles. And if they choose to go back to the Usos, are the one who originally cost American Alpha from originally winning the very first SmackDown Tag Team title reign after they sort of took him out and all that good stuff. So there's legs to stand on here if they bring it up and really try to get something behind it. Because that's the only reason I think people haven't really gotten behind American Alphas, because they've just been guys that they'll trot out. Like, they get some cheers here and there. They're easy to root for in the ring. But when it comes to letting them try to develop characters and promo time, they really haven't done a whole lot of that. And they've done that to some extent with the Usos, especially after the heel turn. So, I mean, there's legs to stand on, and there's a fine reason to do this too. Like Gary said, their reign has been really, I don't want to say miserable, but it hasn't been great. Like,
yeah,
it's a very nothing first run, and that's not what you want. I don't think that's what WWE wanted. So maybe this is a bit of a reset.
Yeah, and you hope so, And my definition of American Alpha's run as champions has got to be ho hum. I love that. It's just a word, sound, ho hum. And I think, Paul, I appreciate that you mentioned that they have not built the American Alpha up as characters, really. They gave you a little taste. Oh, this guy, Gable, he's an old Olympian. He used to do some little Olympians. Oh, and then Jason Jordan, he's just a big, powerful guy that does some great things. That's it. That's all you got. They really could do a lot more with these guys and really show, because they did it in NXT. They really did. You got the whole growth of them being a tag team, and it's too bad that they don't do this. But it would be so awesome if they could kind of go back and show how these guys got together and show that story of how they became friends and things like that. If they can't do it themselves, if they can't build something else, hey, rehash what you got. Show people that have never seen it something. That way people know who these guys are and they care. We care about the Usos. Why do we care about the Usos? Well, let's see. They were built for a long time. We've seen stories with these guys. We've seen them go through a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. We need to see more with American Alpha.
Completely agree. Let's talk about this other thing. This is going to sort of tie together two different things here. Luke Harper gets a promo talking about how since Orton has burned down the Wyatt house, compound, whatever you want to call it, and releasing Sister Abigail from the crypt and having Bray sort of obtain her powers, that Orton has opened Pandora's box, and this new evil is going to come crashing down whenever Harper ends Wyatt next week. So I'm assuming we're going to get a one-on-one match there. Baron Corbin earlier runs into Daniel Bryan and wonders if Dean Ambrose had accepted his challenge for an Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania, to which Bryan says he hasn't heard from him thanks to Baron and his attack with the forklift. And to sort of, I guess, put the cherry on top of what is about to become a very bad day for Baron Corbin, who is about to take the rest of the evening off, Bryan tells him he's going to go one-on-one with Randy Orton. We get about a 12, 13-minute match here. Fairly okay. The last half is fairly inspired, if you ask me, but the beginning is just very much rowing in a boat, going through the motions. Randy does win thanks to a distraction from Dean Ambrose. Ambrose then climbs into the ring and accepts Baron's challenge for the title at WrestleMania. So a one-on-one title match for the Intercontinental title, which is always going to be, and I think Ambrose and Corbin should deliver something fairly good there. And then Renee interviews Randy Orton backstage. Randy says that since he's done what he's done, he doesn't know what to really do to oust Wyatt from the WWE, let alone how he's going to beat him for the championship. A bunch of spooky lighting effects go down. A bunch of guys in cheap masks show up, hold Orton, and put a beating on him. And then Bray shows up and sort of blesses him with this very poorly put together prop of this like weird bracket thing with a red X on him and sort of like almost knights him in a way. And then Wyatt says that Abigail is now one with him, and all this stuff, pretty much restating everything, and then he sings to him to end that segment. This is kind of where I think SmackDown falters a little, because the Wyatt Orton feud to me is super hot. I think it's one of the main reasons people, if you're following the product, are probably going to end up watching WrestleMania, not only because Randy is so over, but I think they've really done well by Bray since the new year. And it's a rehash. You get this cool little visual here with the sheep, but it's really about it for me. And I kind of want more.
No, and I couldn't agree with you more. And, just really quickly, because I just want to mention the things you talked about right before you got to that point. Luke Harper, glad that they're still keeping him in front of our face. Especially since he didn't have a match on this episode. At least we have something with him that's important. Glad about that. And then, of course, when you had that match with Randy Orton and Baron Corbin, you thought some kind of shenanigans were going to go down. It didn't go down in the fashion that you thought, though, because I really expected Bray Wyatt to be involved in that. And I really didn't put into play that Dean Ambrose was going to be involved. That's fine, too. Dean Ambrose getting his one-up on Baron Corbin. It works. Nothing super spectacular, though, with that match. I just want to say that. It was good for, two big guys, taking care of business, well, at least tall guys. They're not huge. But anyway, I'm okay with that. Now, the really important part of this. Okay, so let's talk about that whole little package here with Bray Wyatt. And I think that they've done a pretty decent job with trying to creep people out with all the lighting effects, with doing all this cult type behavior with Bray Wyatt. I think they've done a pretty darn decent job with it. In fact, when Bray Wyatt was doing that whole little ritual thing, I thought it was interesting. Now, remind me, was he talking like as if he was speaking another language, or was he just speaking very softly? It sounded almost like he was doing some kind of ritual thing.
He was probably speaking very softly. I don't think they've gone so far as to have him speaking in tongues or anything like that.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure.
It's hard to make out. I think that's something to focus on.
Well, it is interesting to me because of the fact that they're taking it darker if they are allowing him to speak in a different tongue here. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, which I'm okay with. I have no problems with that because that's this character. That's who he is. He's a part of that dark realm. He's supposed to be possessed by Sister Abigail now. He's supposed to be more powerful. Things like that. That's why he can walk into a room and the lights dim and things like that. So I think overall they do a good job with that. Now, is this super exciting? Not really. Does it really give you a lot more than what you've already had? Not really. And I think that's where you're alluding to, Paul, is just this is a taste, but there's not enough. The whole night they were focused on Shane and, AJ Styles, which is, understandable, but I kind of wish they'd gave this feud a little bit more time, gave us a little bit more of this, and let us understand, how the story is progressing even more. Right now, all you know is that Bray Wyatt had a bunch of guys in sheep masks hold Randy Orton down so he could talk to him for a few minutes and do a ritual. That's about it. There you go. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think to really pop this thing, to make it matter and not take more time off the clock, Paul, is for all those guys to remove their mask and reveal that it's the Bullet Club.
About as many members in the Bullet Club as there were sheep back there, so I think that's a fair conclusion to draw.
It's a joke, but I mean, no, seriously, there was a ton of those guys. I was like, man, what did they just? Hey, I don't even where they were at some casino, right? I don't even know what part.
They were in Las Vegas, I think.
Okay, so whatever, even if it was a California promotion, just one of the promotions. Hey, all the wrestlers come and wear a mask from this promotion, and you get to be on TV and SmackDown tonight. That's kind of what it felt like. There were so many of them. But do you like that? I love that they have that part of this because we rely so much on the guys that he's had around him. Bray Wyatt, I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. We always depend on Luke Harper. We'd always depend on Eric Rowan, and we also depended on, Randy Orton. Now you could see that there's other guys that Bray has. It's not just those guys. He has other people that he can bring into the forefront. I think it makes it feel more like a cult again. Bray Wyatt, is great alone, but with this, you still feel like he has that cult, right? Without those guys, you just think, oh, he's on his lonesome again. No, I like that they added all the sheep mask guys.
There's always been that illusion that the family is larger than everything they ever show, whether it's and this was more towards the front end of his time on the main roster, right, where you had the kids choir showing up, and you had more sheep people, or the sort of battle with the New Day at the compound where there's a whole bunch of people wearing sheep masks. And I'm with you. I always enjoy whenever they bring that up, and I'm sort of glad that it's sort of not always, because it would be silly if he showed up with like 80 guys every show, right, or something like that.
Oh yeah. Ugh. Yeah,
but whenever I think whenever a situation calls for it, it certainly really sends home the fact that he has a lot more power than really anybody I think ever realizes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, and that's what I appreciate about the whole thing, and it really, like I said, it brings that cult feeling to this. Mm-hmm. What I love about Bray Wyatt, and it's kind of weird to say this, it's not about Charles Manson himself, but you kind of get that feeling of he's so persuasive. He has a control over people that he can make them do what he wants, and that's a very cult way of doing things, but on the other hand, you can't really do that without the show of force, and that's what's so cool about this. So I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, always cool to see that. Let's talk the big mixed tag match that we have coming up at WrestleMania, where Miz and Maryse are going to take on John Cena and Nikki Bella. Miz and Maryse show some quote-unquote unaired Total Divas / Total Bellas footage. I'm not going to lie to you, Gary. I love these segments. I ate them up with a spoon. Maryse, first of all, playing both the Bellas, and I just absolutely, I think, nailing a perfect parody of them. And the Miz and his John Cena robot voice, and constantly teasing Maryse Nikki here that he's going to propose to her, and he's got gifts for her, such as a diamond Dallas Page DDP Yoga DVD set, and a ring, a toy WWE ring, and watching Maryse's face get all perked up and then just selling the disappointment each time. Absolutely perfect.
I love that he says it's time to tie the knot, and he gets on one knee to tie his shoe. Yes, you're not wrong about any of that. This was super entertaining. I think some people would say on the normal, oh, this is corny, it's goofy. But you know what? I really feel like, and this is just me, I think other people might think I'm nuts. I think The Miz is one of the best entertainers on WB television. Mm-hmm. He just is. And I know people hate him. I know you may not like him. But I'm sorry, you've got to admit it. He is one of the biggest entertainers on that show. I didn't say the best wrestler. I didn't say, anything else. I said that one of the best entertainers, and that's very important. And I think he did a great job with this. I think Maryse did a wonderful job herself. I don't think that she failed us at all in this whole thing. And so it was very funny. They both played the joke and parody very, very well. I really felt like, it was kind of funny to see Maryse doing the whole Brie mode thing over and over again. I thought that was awesome. I was like, oh my God, she can't say anything else but Brie mode. So I think, you got something accomplished here, because you bring the comedy, you're making fun of, John Cena and the Bellas very well. Because, this is honestly the way people feel about them. Not everybody, but there's a lot of especially Smarky fans. That's exactly the way they feel about John Cena and Nikki Bella. So they're poking fun at that too. Mm-hmm. I just, this is very well done. I can't say anything about it that's negative. I think that they're doing all the right things with this feud. Am I excited about this feud? I can't really say that. I'm not thinking this is going to be one of the best matches on WrestleMania. I just don't. But I'm loving the build. I think it's a fun ride.
It is. This tonight was especially fun, especially on the Miz and Maryse side of things. On the flip side, you have John Cena taking on Fandango, who has ticketed Cena for still wearing jorts in 2017 and for being a lousy boyfriend, and really wanted to show how bad a wrestler Cena was, and introduces his quote-unquote, I guess you could say girlfriend here, in Breezy Bella, who is, of course, Tyler Breeze dressed up to the nines as Nikki Bella. And I will say, damn near pulls it off.
Looks pretty good in that outfit.
The best part is after this match, too, because John Cena runs through Fandango. Tyler Breeze comes into the ring. Nikki, who was brought out earlier, school him pretty much as she plants him with the TKO, as Cena hits the FU on Fandango, or the attitude adjustment, excuse me, and then their STFs on both to make them both simultaneously tap out. During the scuffle, the whatever Tyler Breeze was using to simulate Nikki Bella's big fake boobs fell out, and Cena very nicely threw them at Tyler Breeze as he was recovering on the floor, which got me to laugh rather harder than I care to admit. But
I just wish John Cena would have played with him a little bit more. It didn't do, man.
He's got real ones. Well, real.
Yeah, I guess so. There you go.
I mean, this continues the sort of same theme that Miz and Maryse were going for, but Cena and Nikki continue to prove that despite everything that Miz and Maryse are saying, they are on the same page and look strong going into Mania.
Yeah, you're right. And, I don't want to speak ill of anything. I think this worked the way it needed to work. I mean, you want them to look good. It's basically a squash match for them, and it's jokey and fun because of, Tyler Breeze wearing the whole Nikki Bella, outfit. Outside of that, though, I mean, it's just, there for me. I think, it has a comedy and it has all that, but it's just nothing compared to the video packages with Miz and Maryse.
Right.
To me, it's almost like they're just selling you on John Cena and Nikki Bella because of who they are, right? They don't have to do a lot. They're just them. They're the biggest superstars, whereas it's like, hey, Miz and Maryse, they really need to do things. They got to knock it out of the park. That way they can feel like they're relevant across the other side of the ring from the other two. So, that's maybe nitpicky, but I just think it's kind of funny. They just kind of where they spend so much time with Miz and Maryse, they spend probably a quarter of that time for John Cena and Nikki Bella.
And it continues into what they've sort of been doing with the feud, though, right? Miz and Maryse have done a lot of talking, not really a lot of showing. And they've been together a long time on screen, right? This is the first time they've acknowledged on at least WWE Wrestling TV that Cena and Nikki are a couple. They're out here together. They're doing stuff. And I think they're just trying to show you that these two are working well together. They're doing all these things together. Look at how adorable they are. Oh, and John's probably going to propose at WrestleMania. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's the goal, at least, to get you to understand, which one is stronger than the other, and that's what they're trying to tell you right there. You're right that John Cena and Nikki Bella, they're going to do it in the ring. That's their strong point,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I mean, this was kind of fun, kind of hokey. I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest with you, that they're letting Nikki do some intergender stuff here, but I think it was good.
Yeah, I agree. So last to talk about here is the women's division. Becky Lynch has a match with Carmella that doesn't go a minute because it breaks down into the chaos to hype up what we're going to get at WrestleMania, which is, of course, the SmackDown Women's Championship on the line, as Alexa Bliss will defend against every woman on the SmackDown roster, which we still don't know who that all entails. But we get a small picture of the chaos here as Natty, who's doing commentary, runs in. We have Alexa Bliss, of course, come out, and Mickie James, and I believe that's it. So they all pretty much beat each other up. Alexa Bliss ends up being the one to stand tall after she hits a missile drop kick on... no, sorry, that's Becky. Becky hits a missile drop kick on James Ellsworth, and Bliss ends up sort of taking her out afterwards. So this needs more, right? I mean, we're not getting a solid picture of anything. We're getting everybody wants the title. Alliances that were built and have sort of made this division interesting have now been broken off, and it's sort of just a big mess that we don't know what to do with.
To me, it's a very big negative. Mm-hmm. I do not see anything that anyone gains out of this match at WrestleMania. I don't see anything how it really gained anything for us tonight. I don't think they really did a, bad thing, I guess, with having everything kind of break down and being a mess. But it really, it's almost like they're spinning their tires with this women's division, right? Mm-hmm. At least on SmackDown, because, we can't have this feud and we can't have that feud. Let's just let everybody have a chance to go for the title. Okay, sounds great. But now there's too much going on, and they don't have enough time within 2 hours to, get you pumped up for, 5 to 7 different women coming into this match. They just don't have that kind of time. So their build on it really sucks. And right. Honestly, I wish I could say I cared. I'm actually rooting for the champion to come out of this clean and retain. And it's just because I think it has a better story if Alexa Bliss retains her title at WrestleMania, beating everybody. I think there's more story there compared to, Natalya won, or, even if it was, Mickie James winning, which would be kind of cool because she's been gone for a while. Mm-hmm. Still, I think the story is stronger with Alexa Bliss. And I think Alexa Bliss holding the title coming out of this, that's the strongest point out of any of this stuff we're talking about with this match. That's the one picture you could take away and say, okay, that's good. That's something that says, hey, I'm the champion. I'm the last one walking out of here. There you go. So outside of that, I just have nothing really good to say about it. And it's nothing about the talent. It's just I don't like the match for this WrestleMania.
Yeah, and a lot of the build seems to be around the fact, and I think me and Sean have talked about this on the show before, a lot of the build is based on the fact of who else is exactly going to challenge, and less about the girls who are already announced for it outside, because we haven't had anything touched upon since the match was made as far as, well, Becky still has issues with Natty, Alexa and Mickie James aren't simpatico anymore, Carmella is just really fighting anybody and everybody for whatever reason, and you're sort of just left with that without them continuing to show anything for it, and a lot of talk of, well, it's the entire roster, and we still don't know who's all in this. Here we are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true though. It really is. That's what bugs me. I don't know. I'm very disappointed, to be honest with you, because I think they have the talent here. I know it's a nice payday for everybody to be a part of WrestleMania, but I look at this as, hey, use that pre-show to have some paydays. Have maybe a Rumble, or you already have one Rumble, but or you can have some kind of other style match to include maybe 6 of the women, and then later on in the show, the actual part, have Alexa Bliss face off against somebody. Mickie James would be a perfect opponent. Mm-hmm. Why not? It only makes sense to the story because Alexa Bliss promised her something and then reneged on it.
Right.
So, well, there you go. There's a feud right there, and it's one that you're going to get I would assume, a pretty darn good match out of those two. Alexa Bliss isn't the best, but she's also not terrible. And, Mickey James is really good. So I think that they could really have something there special. But now you're just going to get a jumbled up mess. Now you're going to watch that match and say, you know what? I'm going to go make me a sandwich because nothing's going to happen for the majority of this until we get to the end. That's the way I feel about it. That's sad, but that's the way I feel.
I mean, that's fair. I like I said, a lot of the drama is who else is going to show up and however they're going to go about doing that, whether it's individual entrances or you're going to have a whole bunch of them come out and then you're going to have random ones come out during the match or whatever you're going to do. That's the drama. It's nothing based on what these girls are doing week to week on SmackDown.
You're exactly right. I'm going to say this, and we'll, later on when we get to WrestleMania, we'll do our predictions and stuff. But you know what? Right now, as I sit here tonight, the one thing that'll make me happy at WrestleMania with this match, if they're doing just these random entrances of people coming out to be a part of it, and then Victoria's music hits, I'm game. I'm happy. I don't need to worry about anything else after that.
I think that'd be cool. I mean, obviously Kelly has signed a deal too. That could happen. Eva Marie still hasn't been released, and I think a lot of. I'm certainly counting on her being there, and when she does come out, she could even be a pick to win this, just because you want to talk about a heat magnet, like screwing Becky out of the belt or something like that. Just that a reign, a chorus, a celestial vengeance of booze for all Miss All Red everything if she walks out of there with that belt.
Could you imagine that crowd would be hot and angry. But yeah, that may be something that could come out of this and actually mean something, but I don't know. We'll see. We still have another SmackDown to get to before we really can get too much more into it.
Very true. Very true. Well, Gary, I think we only got one thing left to do, and that's put a number on this bad boy. What do you got?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think it's really kind of scary because, I gave Raw a 5 out of 10, and I probably should have rated it lower. I know you and Sean, gave it a 4 out of 10. SmackDown, though, was just night and day. It was so much better. It accomplished some things. It wasn't super progressive. You kind of still had that same picture you did before, but I think they had a lot of great jokes. I think they had some pretty darn solid matches here. And overall, I was entertained from beginning to end. So for me personally, I'm going to give this SmackDown, it's weird to say, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it from start to finish.
I find myself greatly enjoying this too. There are problems here and there. It's a very entertaining episode of SmackDown. It's not exactly heavy on the wrestling outside of a great tag team match. Everything else, as far as in-ring action, is very blah or meant to progress an angle, and that's fine. We're in Mania season. We're starting to build. I'm gonna give it a 7. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a good, solid episode of SmackDown. Lots of build, even though I wish some of it had been more pressed to other sides rather than the huge focus that was Shane and AJ, even though that was very good.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really looking forward to next SmackDown. That'll probably be a lot less wrestling, even more than we had on this show.
Yeah.
But I think it's still going to be really interesting to see how they get that final bit of build before we do head to Orlando. So this is exciting. I'm really, really happy to see that we got great things going on SmackDown. I think Raw, they got a lot of work to do to be where SmackDown is right now. But yeah, we are out of here. We appreciate everyone who came and joined us tonight. If you want to find out more information about this show or go listen to all of our other shows, make sure you go to W2Mnet.com. Or if you want to listen on iTunes or any other place to find our show, just go subscribe to Wrestling to the Max and do us a favor. Also, don't forget, rate and review. I know it takes you a few minutes or so, but hey, it just helps us out. It lets us know what you like about the show. Heck, even put things you don't like. We don't care. We just want to see what you guys are thinking, and it really does help us. And plus, it gets the word out there about us. And, share the show with a friend. If you got some friends who love wrestling, hey, just say, hey, I have a show I listen to. Check it out. So we appreciate everybody. And until next time, we will see you guys down the road.
Have a good one, guys.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.